So Batman just found out he's immortal, basically. I mean, almost. But hit the like button while the intro plays, and we're going to talk about it. All right, so before we go any further, we're going to be talking about some spoilers from Generations Forged issue number 1. This has kind of been an ongoing thing since Detective Comics 1027, Generations Shattered, and then, of course, Generations Forged number 1. Now, we're going to be talking about why Batman just found out he's basically immortal. But we're going to have to go back and talk a little bit about the new Omniverse. So if you're not familiar, in Dark Knight's Death Metal, the new, basically, I guess technically it's old at this point, run, just finished up, has now created the concept of the Omniverse. Essentially, there are multiple multiverses, and everything is canon in some way, shape, or form. Now, if you're familiar with comics, which I believe most of you are, we all know that there's always this weird thing where superheroes never age, or they come up with these weird events like Infinite Crisis and Crisis on Infinite Earths to turn different things into canon or not canon, or Flashpoint and all these other different things to try to make sense of it all. Well, DC has just eliminated that concept where continuity is all things that have ever happened, and here you are. So with that being said, what we now have is considered the Linearverse in one of these small corners of the Omniverse. Now, I know that sounds confusing, but we're going to talk about what the Linearverse is and the concept behind it. Now, in Generations Forged number 1, the last few pages, we see Batman talking with Wave Rider, and Wave Rider kind of reveals that this is a unique universe that you guys are living in, or that you guys are from. And it was pretty cool because you have the Golden Age Batman from the 30s, and then you have Teen Titans characters from the 80s, and future characters from, 3200th century or something like that, crazy. So it was pretty cool to see all of these folks in one story arc. And basically what happened is Batman confronts Wave Rider at the end of the book, and he says, "What do you mean we're so unique?" And he explains, well, you guys basically don't age. You're very unique in that way. And I quote exactly what he says here. He says, "Here, people are age far more slowly, living much longer than anywhere else. Your vitality will endure for decades, enabling you to be effective far longer than the universal norm." And the Linearverse is basically explained by characters simply living longer than people who don't live inside this Linearverse. And this basically means it's true for aliens, for people like Batman who are normal humans. Like I said a second ago, aliens like Superman, regular mythological characters like Wonder Woman. It doesn't matter. People in this Linearverse don't age. So that same Bruce Wayne in the 20s and 30s that we saw during the Golden Age is the same Bruce Wayne we're seeing now in this Linearverse. So what's interesting about this Linearverse is things like technology. It still advances. Fashion, it still changes. World events, presidential terms, war, all that stuff still happens, but people just age. It's almost imperceivable when they age. And they remember it, they experience it all. So it's a very interesting concept. So what do you guys think about the new DC Linearverse? At this point, there's nothing really set up further, announced further to be involved in this. However, you don't spend space inside Tech Comics 1027. You don't put out 2 one-shots, Generations Shattered, Generations Forged, not to continue this in some way. So I'm interested to see how this is going to happen. What do you guys think about this? I mean, if we have the Linearverse inside the Omniverse and there's multiple multiverses, I mean, they could do anything, and I don't know how they would continue expanding all of these verses, but it's an interesting concept, and it's a way to basically eliminate all continuity and answer that one question of, well, why don't superheroes age? And I know people are going to say, well, what about Dick Grayson? He's been around for like 80 years, and now he's an adult. Well, I think the concept is once they maybe get to that adulthood point, they kind of stop aging. Or they age slowly. But anyways, guys, that is the Linearverse explained. Hopefully that makes some sense. Let me know what you think. Maybe we'll get some cool new stories inside this new Linearverse where characters don't age, or as Wave Rider said it himself, almost imperceivably. You guys are the best part of Two Brothers Comics, and as always, collect your way.